Hello everyone, my name is Christian, welcome to my hobby blog. So I just came back from the theaters. It was the first time that I've been to a theater since depressingly Star Wars number 9, Rise of Skywalker. Um, I saw Spider-Man No Way From Home just now. I just got back from the theater. Um, little disclaimer, I haven't seen anything Marvel related since Spider-Man Far From Home. So the one after Endgame. And that's not because I don't like Marvel. I generally love the Marvel movies. I think Infinity War and Endgame are the best ones, of course. And I think in general, after I finished Endgame, I was just kind of done for now. I knew they weren't going to stop making them, but I was kind of like, okay, I want to take a 2 or 3 year break from the Marvel superheroes just so I can get excited again for it. Because Endgame and I guess Spider Man Far From Home marked 10 years of me watching Marvel movies and generally keeping up with them. And I think after that, I was just, I wasn't exhausted, but I was like, let's not watch anymore for a while. Let's just watch the Marvel movies that I'm interested in. And the one that I knew I was going to watch eventually was going to be the Doctor Strange movie, the rated R, Sam Raimi directed Doctor Strange. And I didn't really care for Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland's a great actor. Zendaya, of course, is a queen. I love her. She is phenomenal in everything she touches. So the reason why I watched this movie, and in the theaters at least, is that I was just kind of the main. First, let me say the main issue that I had about this movie before seeing it was that everyone kind of figured out what was going on in the movie. I'm not going to say spoilers, but if you know, you know. The trailer, I thought, showed too much, but there's really not much they could show without spoiling it. And I didn't even see the trailer. I just saw screenshots and memes of it and a couple news article titles discussing the trailer. And I just really did not really want to see the movie because of that. Because I kind of knew everything before even watching it. And that was me not even looking for spoilers. Not looking for anything. And so, with that said, I was asked by many people, whether at work, friends, random people online who, when I would mention, like, oh, what'd you think of the new Spider-Man? They were like, you need to see it, even if you know everything. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I finally saw it, and my general impressions is that it was much better than I thought it would be. I was pretty much just in love with everything that was going on. There were a couple moments that didn't work for me, mostly the Marvel humor. Those moments where they would do a quip or whatever, and not just me, but the entire theater were just like sitting there like, okay, that was supposed to be a joke. It wasn't funny, but okay. I mean, a Marvel movie has to have those moments of humor, and so it was whatever. Look beyond it, but I think what would have made me like this movie even more, and why I would have seen it sooner, is if nobody would have spoiled like 90% of the movie for me in memes. I mean, everybody, way before the movie even came out, they were like, oh, this person was cast, this person was cast. Oh, these villains are coming, all this stuff. I'm trying not to say anything without spoilers, but I think knowing all that just kind of dampened the movie for me. It was just kind of waiting for the fireworks show, to steal a Simpsons reference, but it was very much just waiting for the fireworks show. There's not much else I can say without spoilers, so I'm going to go into spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to and you don't want to know anything, go see it now. It is phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Marvel movie, but considering I haven't seen any other Marvel movie since the last Spider-Man, I think, the quality is still very high. I like this one far more than Far From Home, just to throw that out there. So on to spoilers. As everybody knew going into this movie, Tobey Maguire, that other guy, Andrew Garfield, they all come back as Spider-Man. And I think that was the thing that I wish I didn't know going in. Like, knowing Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, who else? Sandman, all these people, the weird reptile guy that they don't really give many moments for. They're all in there, and I would have been fine knowing that, but not knowing that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were coming back as Spider-Man. I so wish I did not know that, because I remember in the first teaser we see Doc Ock and he says, "Hello, Peter." And then we see the Green Goblin grenade. And, that's all we saw. That was good. And then a lot of people were, paparazziing, I guess, stalking Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, being like, "Are you in the new Spider-Man? Are you in the new Spider-Man?" And Andrew Garfield was playing it coy, "Oh, no, I would never be. I'm done being Spider-Man." And Tobey Maguire was like, "Yes, I am back, and I'm Spider-Man. Fuck you." And would walk away. I love that. I love that he did that. But at the same time, I wish I didn't know that. I wish I didn't know they came back. Because what I like a lot about the movie is that they wait a long time to bring them onto the screen. We get Doc Ock immediately in the movie when our Spider-Man, Tom Holland, is denied admission to MIT along with Zendaya's character MJ and his best friend Ned. And I was like, okay, they're taking their time. This isn't this is kind of a tangent, but comparing Jurassic Park to Jurassic World, what's so effective about Jurassic Park is that they wait to show the T-Rex an hour and a half in. It's a very long time. And they did the same here. And with Jurassic World, they showed the big monster immediately. And it was like, oh, okay. And the movie was boring for the most part for the rest of the movie. But with this movie, they took their time. They showed Doc Ock, and Doc Ock was the main villain for a while. And then Doctor Strange came and kind of helped the issue of the multiverse kind of coming in. And then Green Goblin came by, or at least Doc Ock and Green Goblin were involved in the first altercation with Peter Parker. And then, Spider-Man gets help from Doctor Strange. We get a couple of dramatic moments of him being like, "What the fuck? You just disrupted the fucking fabric of reality, come on." And I liked all that stuff. It was so nice that they took the time, because I would have been very underwhelmed if they showed any of the other Spider-Mans within 15-30 minutes. This is a 2.5-hour movie. It is very long. It's as long as the Avengers movies. And that was one thing that I wish we got more of, was the Avenger kind of team-ups. Maybe we could have gotten, Captain America, the new one, who is Falcon, I guess, now. I wish we got a little bit more crossovers with the other Avengers, because this was a Spider-Man and Doctor Strange movie. There weren't any other ones, any other of the Avengers in this movie. And it was really nice that they took the time. I mean, I can't say that enough. I was very relieved that it was about an hour and 45 minutes in that Ned is like, gets the Doctor Strange ring. And he's just like, we need Peter Parker. And is doing like the magic thing. And you see Spider-Man right there. And he's like, oh, hey guys. And he walks through the portal, takes his mask off, and it's Andrew Garfield. And I was like, okay, finally, we're getting into the fireworks show. Because that's all the movie was, That's why everyone's going to go see this movie, is to see all three of our wonderful Spider-Man actors together in one movie. And then, a couple of minutes later, they're like, okay, let's do it again until we get, our Spider-Man. And they do it again. And then bum-looking, homeless-looking Tobey Maguire shows up and he's like, hey, I'm Peter Parker. He's like older. He's noticeably older. I mean, I think everyone in this movie looked noticeably older, even Tom Holland. I mean, there were a couple moments where I was like, you no longer look like a kid, but you look like your 30-year-old self whenever I saw Tom Holland. And it was so fun to see them on screen. And thankfully, again, they didn't show them in the first 5 minutes, because they're not in it much in this movie. They're in it just enough, which I really appreciated, because it would have been very easy for the entire movie to be like, hey, you remember when we fought Green Goblin? Do you remember when Electro was the weird-looking guy? They have like one conversation that is like that, where they're all in a room doing like science experiments, and Tobey Maguire's just like, psh, psh, whatever. I was trying to get it in the camera. And they're like, holy fuck, it's coming out of your arm? Ew. And he's like, what? That's normal for me. And they're like, we have to make our webs in a science lab. And he's like, that's inconvenient. And like, we have little moments like that. I think the biggest, not cringe moment for me, but a moment that I was kind of like, oh, okay. It kind of took me out of the movie, was when Willem Dafoe, who's one of my favorite actors, he's hanging out, with all the other villains in Tom Holland's apartment because he wants to save them. And I was like, okay, like, I didn't really like that story at all in terms of Tom Holland wanting to cure all these supervillains of the curses of, being the supervillain. Doc Ock with a crazy AI in his neck, Sandman being made of sand, and Electro having electric powers, all this stuff. I didn't believe it for a second. I really didn't like that story beat, but whatever. It was an overall great movie. But there's a moment where Willem Dafoe is like talking, and he's just like, I'm a bit of a scientist myself. And like, that's like a whole meme. It's been a meme for a very long time, since those movies. And so that kind of took me out. I was like, oh, that's the meme. That's the meme, they say. And there were a couple moments like that where, like when Tom Holland first sees Doctor Strange in this movie, he's like, I want to reverse reality so people forget who I am. And he's like, first of all, don't call me sir, call me Steven. He's like, okay, Steven. He's like, that's a bit weird, but I'll accept it, or something like that. That's a whole nother meme that kind of took me out, but it was a really quick moment, so it didn't take away too much attention. But it was really interesting how small scale this movie was. It was really just them trying to cure the supervillains. And I'm trying to think if I would want this movie to be shorter, because it was 2.5 hours. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. That should be like Avengers, like crazy, stuff, Thanos level. I mean, Infinity War was that length. Endgame was 3 hours because they needed it to be 3 hours. It's not structurally like this, where it's first act, second act, third act. It's 3 movies in one, really, which is dealing with the ending of Infinity War, and then them trying to fix it, and then them trying to fix the issues they caused by fixing all this stuff. But I really liked how they used the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man storylines in order to kind of give like a parallel like story for Tom Holland, because we get all the different moments that they have where Tobey Maguire in his Spider-Man, he talks with his uncle, Uncle Ben, who has very famous rice. He talks with Uncle Ben and says, oh, I don't want to do this thing. And he's like, with great power comes great responsibility. And then he's killed later that night, as we know if you've seen the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And in this movie, spoilers, I mean, there's been spoilers for a while now, but Aunt May dies in this movie. And before she dies, she's talking to Tom Holland, and he's like, man, I really must, do this thing of, saving the villains. And she's like, with great power comes great responsibility. And then she dies, or gets killed by the Green Goblin. And then there are different moments when Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are talking to Tom Holland, and they're like, yeah, my MJ died, and I tried to save her, but I kind of caused her death. Like, that was awful. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is like, well, I try to, save, Green Goblin, and, my Uncle Ben died, and told me, with great power comes great responsibility. There's all these little parallels, and there was a really great moment that I just greatly appreciated, because I did not like the Andrew Garfield movies. I think he alone is the only good part of that two movies. But there's a great moment because in the second one, I believe, he tries to save Gwen Stacy, who is like the MJ of his universe, and he catches her as she's falling with his web and breaks her back and kills her instantly. And there's a great moment in this one at the end when Zendaya, who is playing Michelle Jessie or something, is not Mary Jane, but it's MJ. She's falling, and Tom Holland fails to save her and gets like swatted off by Doc Ock. And then Andrew Garfield jumps in to save her, and instead of shooting his webs like he did, he catches her and saves her. And he has this moment of like, oh shit, I didn't repeat my mistake, and I saved, MJ. And he starts crying, and Zendaya's like, are you okay? He's like, yes, I am. And I really like that moment. That was a really, really strong moment. It was pretty awesome. But this movie in general, I think, was just really great. It's definitely one of the stronger Marvel movies. I remember going to the first Spider-Man movie in theaters with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and I remember falling in love with that, seeing the sequels, seeing the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, even though I didn't like those. It was still great to get Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man is one of the superheroes I wish I was, where I could just sling around the city and, have super, agility and strength and all this different stuff. And so watching this movie, I was just like filled with joy. I could feel my kid self just, loving this movie, because, we never knew that there was going to be another Spider-Man, with Tobey Maguire especially, and Andrew Garfield. I mean, the end of that second one is so awful, where we have that trailer shot of Andrew Garfield with the, manhole, swinging it at the rhinoceros guy, and it ends, and you're like, oh, we know the sequel's never going to get made. And then soon after, Marvel got the rights. But it was so nice to see them all together one last time. And I liked at the end, when reality is collapsing and Doctor Strange is trying to fix it, that we get to see, outlines of other villains, like, Rhinoceros, the real one, not the shitty mechanical one. We saw Galactus, I think. I think I saw Galactus in there, and a few others that it's definitely a moment that you'll need a pause when, it's on Disney Plus or on Blu-ray or 4K. You need to pause it and just kind of analyze each outline. But yeah, I have no idea where Marvel is going. I haven't been paying attention at all. This movie really alleviated my issues with Far From Home because they had Mysterio, who is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and my big issue was that he was talking about multiverses and this and the other, and I was like, fuck yes. This is how they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Galactus, all these different villains and, Marvel characters they couldn't use. And I was so happy for that. And then in the movie, it was like, oh, it's just, Illusion Man. And I was like, oh, I just kind of didn't care for the movie after that reveal. But in this movie, the multiverse was officially introduced. It may have been introduced in a Disney Plus TV show, but I don't know. I don't really, I don't have Disney Plus anyways. So if I wanted to watch it or not, I don't have the option to. But I'm really excited for the future of Marvel. I don't think I will start watching every single thing Marvel does. I may go back and watch Black Widow. I think that's the only movie that I haven't seen after Far From Home. Because I know Black Widow was filmed like 2 or 3 years ago before COVID. And then they were too scared to put it on streaming service. So they were like, we're just going to release it eventually. We're going to delay, this Marvel series for 2 or 3 years, which I wanted anyways. So it was kind of nice that the universe or the pattern kind of forced that. Although it's very unfortunate, the actual events are what led to that with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and it's still happening today. But I'm very interested to see what the greater arc is for this phase, I guess, of Marvel. I am hoping the only way they can do this, in my opinion, that will top Thanos is by introducing Galactus and just making him exactly what he is, which is a world eater. He eats planets in order to grow stronger, is my understanding. And if they do that, I'll be happy. I mean, this is kind of the slow rise in the roller coaster is doing, the starting out small, which this movie was very small scale if you think about it in the greater Marvel. I mean, Nick Fury is mentioned like once in this movie. We don't get any of the other Avengers. We get Wong, who is Doctor Strange's like magic assistant, and Doctor Strange. Those are the only superheroes we get, aside from 2 other Spider-Mans. But yeah, I'm trying to think anything else that I want to say. I wasn't planning on doing a review of this. I just ended up liking it a lot more than I thought. And so I want to talk about it. So I hope this was entertaining for you guys. I'm interested to see what you guys think of this movie. Please leave your thoughts below about Spider-Man No Way Home. Give me your predictions on the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I have no idea. I think they should try to do Secret War, I believe is the title, where they I think it's Galactus. It's some major Marvel villain in the comics where he revives every Avenger ever and then gives the still living ones, along with the dead ones, like super versions of all the, gear and gadgets and superpowers. And then has a war between all of them. They have like a battle royale between all the different heroes. And I think that would be just an awesome movie to do that. Just fuck it at this point, in my opinion. They have all the money in the world. I want to see some crazy stuff. I'm really excited for the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie. It's going to be rated R, directed by Sam Raimi. They're going to be leaning into the H.P. Lovecraft, like, celestial creature entities. Like, it's going to be really awesome, I think. And I don't know what else they're going to do. Maybe Galactus. I think there were rumors for Fantastic Four coming soon at some point. But I think with COVID, they kind of stepped off the brakes, or stepped off the gas pedal. And we're just kind of like, let's focus on the TV shows for now. Something smaller scale. And then once everyone's, vaccinated and COVID's no longer an issue, I think they'll ramp up the MCU again. This was a really great, COVID era superhero movie. Not too many craziness going on. We had one sequence with Doctor Strange going through, the crazy world, the mirror verse, I believe they call it, where all the weird Inception visuals are going on. But, yeah, this was just a great movie. I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite of the MCU movies, but it's top 5, I think. Endgame, Infinity War, Iron Man 1, Avengers 1, and this one. So, pretty good. Okay, oh my gosh, I forgot one thing. One of my favorite cameos in this movie, because there's 2 big ones that I wasn't really anticipating. I mean, I know there was the cameo at the end of Far From Home of Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons. And that was perfect. Love that. But there's a short scene in this movie, in the very beginning, when Spider-Man, Zendaya, Aunt May, they're being counseled by the police. And they're kind of like, hey, you need a lawyer. Go talk to a lawyer. And they talk to the one and only Matthew Murdock, who, if you don't know, plays Daredevil in the amazing Netflix series Daredevil. And it was easily one of my favorite parts of this movie in terms of short moments, because I love Daredevil. I love that show so much. And I'm still very angry that it got canceled by, I guess, Disney, and they just stopped making it. But here's hoping, because that was just so exciting. He shows up, he's like, oh, hey, I'm Mr. Murdock, and a brick is thrown through the window, and he's blind. He's a blind fighter, superhero, and he just reaches out and grabs the brick that is being, thrown through the window, and Tom Holland is like, how'd you do that? And he's like, I'm a good lawyer. That was it. That was all we saw of him. And for a short moment, I knew this wouldn't happen, but I was kind of hoping that he would become involved. And it would be, a triple team of Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. I thought that would have been really fun. Unlikely team, kind of like in Infinity War, when Thor and Rocket Raccoon team up. That's not a pair of heroes that you would expect an adventure to be in. So that was one thing that I completely forgot. As you can see, I just got out of the shower. I was sitting there, just in the shower, just kind of thinking about the movie, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot to talk about Daredevil. So that is it. On to my final little few seconds. Sorry. So again, just tell me what you thought about the movie, any theories. And yeah, thank you all very much.